So I look into the eyes of somebody who had this anticipation. Somebody I had never seen. It's not like I seen a friendly face. It was just somebody who had this anticipation in their eyes, like, okay, what is coming next? And I closed my eyes. I took a breath. I put my papers down and I thought, here we go. Sometimes I'm considered a disruptor. And that could be a good thing, but it can also be a bad thing, right? For some people, because it's a status quo. So a lot of times things move smoothly. And I'm kind of a disruptor. I try to always do it with a smile. So I'm like, I know people aren't going to take this well. So let's throw in a smile. And, hello. Yeah, let's do this. But I do like to disrupt because people get stuck in a rut sometimes, or they become comfortable. And in comfort, we don't grow. And there's so much potential and so many people. Good morning. My name is Angel Guerra-Chagolla. I'm the Senior Risk Manager for Arista International Bakery, as well as the President and Founder of the ProFirm and a nonprofit, Karma and Blessing.
I couldn't sleep last night. I was like a mixture of nerves and excitement for today because you are our official real podcast guest.
Yay!
Yay! And Rick's in the room over there. Hi, Rick. So we had this idea to do this like about 2 years from now. We've been thinking about, hey, let's do a podcast, but it just didn't fruition into reality because of just life, you know what I mean? And like, we do the TOA university and we have our normal activities too of just being a court reporting agency, but we thought this could be a really unique way of kind of capturing some of the amazing people that we've been able to meet along the way, and in a sort of a archival way where if we have an amazing conversation with you, let's just say in the normal day-to-day, that conversation is amazing in that moment, but then it's kind of lost and nobody else can kind of get inspired by it. So that's the gist behind this whole TOA Storytellers, is that I want to hear your amazing story from the beginning to today, of how you became who you are today.
Okay.
So thank you so much. We are in the beautiful offices of Arista, right?
Yes. So as you can smell the baking bread behind, I know, right? Isn't it amazing? That's the one thing about being a risk manager for a bakery is that you can't, the smell is just heavenly.
Yes. I was joking with Rick earlier. I said, if I worked here, I'd definitely get injured because you would. I'm like, yeah, it would be a site claim though, because I go crazy from the amazing smell.
Yeah, right.
So, but how long have you been here?
3 years.
But you work from home a lot too, right?
I do. So the first year I was hired from Arista, I came into the location about a year and a half. I came into the location every day. And then I do travel to some of our bakeries throughout the U.S. I was blessed to be able to work remote from home, which actually, as you know, it cuts down on drive time, so you get a lot more work.
Amazing. You live in Riverside.
I do.
That's what you told me. Yes. But there is some travel where you actually have to go out of state and to all the bakeries, to the actual...
Yeah, so we have a number of bakeries here in California. We have some in Chicago, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, Texas. So we have about 15 bakeries here in the U.S. and 2 in Canada.
I think Rick was telling me you guys are the biggest bakery in conglomerate in the United States, something like that. What's that stat?
I can't tell you exactly for sure, but I will tell you we are the number 1 bakery in my heart, right? Because we do some amazing things here at Arista. We own the Otis Spunkmeyer cookie brand, which everybody knows, right? Big fan. As well as La Brea Bakery, which if you're in Southern California, you know that. We are in downtown Disney. We have a cafe there and then one in LA. So, we are an international bakery. Our forefathers, I would say, are in Europe, but we are all over the world.
And you've been here 3 years.
I have been.
But your career in risk, though, didn't start here. It was elsewhere beforehand. Where were you before here?
So actually, this is my first risk management. Yeah.
Straight to the top, baby.
So my story, I think there's a lot of us out there like that. I started 10 years ago. I started later in life, my career. I was a, at-home mom and kind of started college close to 30.
You know, pause right there. Let's actually go back. Let's rewind before that even. Okay. And then we'll get to that and then move on from there. But okay. Are you from around here or where were you born?
Yes, I'm from Bloomington. So if anybody knows it, there's one off-ramp on the freeway. It's a very small town, unincorporated area. That's where I grew up.
Here in Southern California.
Yeah, here in Southern California. We're in San Bernardino County. I grew up there. My husband grew up there, and we kind of stayed there all our lives. So we are now
High
living.
school sweetheart, your husband?
So I have known my husband since second grade.
What?
Yes. And
When he was in second grade, how old were you? Also second grade?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
You weren't in like 12th grade.
No, no. Yeah. So we've known each other a very, very long time, and got married out of high school and started a family, and so I kind of resided in Bloomington throughout that. Midway, I decided, it's time to go back to school.
What was the plan? Like, you just graduated from high school, now you're married and you wanted to start a family, and then you guys were living your adult life. What was the plan as far as school or career or vocation at that point?
So actually, to be honest, I really wanted to go to college right out of high school. Let's be honest, I graduated 3 months pregnant. And so we got married and we went ahead and we started our family. I had 2 children by the age of 21. And unfortunately, I think we were just too young. So we were divorced for 5 years. During that time, as a single mom, I decided, okay, it's time to revisit, and what are we going to do? So I decided to go back to college.
Wow.
I got my associate's degree thinking I'm going to be a teacher, liberal arts, right? I always spent a lot of time at my kids' school. Kids to me are
I
amazing.
totally picture you as a teacher. I was thinking that on the way over here, it's like, because when you spoke at our event at Tua University, and just the way you carry yourself and with a group setting and stuff like that, and I know you put on the seminars and stuff of your own.
Yeah. So I did that and actually went into my bachelor's degree and decided, you know what, I'm going to do a change of pace. Started painting and changed my major.
So you have a whole artistic side as well.
Yeah. So right after my bachelor's degree, I got an offer to work in a mailroom. So I thought, okay, let's do this.
Right.
That was the first insight to work comp.
What was that mailroom at?
SRS, Specialty Risk Services, right, in Riverside.
Mm-hmm.
It was such a great company. And I was in the mailroom. There was 2 young individuals working in the mailroom. And I would say, office mom. So taking them under my wing, and we just kind of rearranged things in that office. And a couple of months later, the operations manager, Mickey Willard, I'll never forget, he came to me a few months later and said, hey, we see this huge difference in the office.
Since you've been there?
Yeah, since I've been there. They're like, it was like, what's the key? And I'm like, I feed them. So, I would tell the kids, being a mom, right?
Literal food?
I
bring the snacks?
So
snack mom.
Yeah, snack mom. So what I would do is tell them, hey, let's do these tasks. I'll buy your lunch. And so, kids are that way.
Never underestimate the power of food as a bribery tool.
That's right, right. So I got this opportunity to become a claims adjuster. And I thought, okay, this is going to be great, because in the mail room, I was very curious. So I would read the mail, right?
You
like, what?
Peek inside there.
Well,
yeah.
I don't know how many people actually know what work comp or insurance or risk is until you come into the industry, right?
I had
no idea.
No idea.
So I found it fascinating. And I got my opportunity to sit on a desk. And quickly, my personality is, how do we be great at this, right? How do we help other people? So within the year, I got my SIP, my WCCA, and
that's pretty fast too, all within 1 year.
Yeah, about a year. I would say
you already had a master's by then, or no, you didn't have your master's.
No,
yet.
I didn't. I didn't have my master's yet.
Coming.
Yeah, and so I was blessed to be on a dedicated account, and SRS was then sold. I transitioned my career into Corval, where I became a senior claims adjuster, and I again blessed to be on a dedicated account. I did that.
Why, for those of us out there, why is it more blessed to be on a dedicated account versus have the smorgasbord of random accounts? Why is that?
For me, I felt like I had that connection. So you have one client and you get to...
It could be literally like one person at that employer?
It could be one person or it could be a team. It really depends.
Okay.
So
a relationship can kind of like...
Right. So you grow that relationship, but you actually get to know what your client's needs are. Right. So, I mean, you can as well. I've been on other accounts where I've held, and we'll go into that later. So you get to grow this relationship, really know the client, the company, their needs, and the employees. So I did that for a couple of years, and I got this opportunity to become an operations manager.
At Corvell?
No,
Elsewhere.
So there was a company, CBCS, who is actually based out of Dubuque, Iowa. Their parent company is Cottingham and Butler. They've been around like 100 years.
Wow.
And I got this opportunity to be their first California employee. So I jumped on it.
From home?
From home. So they're like, hey, you get to work from home.
Great.
Yeah. So they fly me out
for training and
for training so that I could know their system, but it was also because they had no California employee. So I was training the assistant and actually talking to the manager about the ins and outs of California. So we all know that California is very interesting, sometimes considered a different beast from other states, right? So it was this union between me, who has all this California, background, and then a legacy company that is just amazing. And so for me, I was like, wow, okay, I've been in claims, I want to say less than 6 years.
At that point?
At that point.
What year was this around?
13.
Okay, like 6 years ago. Gotcha.
Right. And I actually started in claims in 2010. So I get this opportunity and I'm like, okay, yes, I'm going to take this. And what involved was they needed an operations manager because they couldn't just do claims in California without somebody licensed. So that kind of threw me into a whole different role. So I went to the state of California, I did the testing, got the license. I was now the operations manager / California account, handling, and I handled their claim. Well, lo and behold, there was no panel, there was no MPN, no UR. So for me, that was a dream come true. I think for a lot of people, that would be a dream come true, right? Because you get to create this program from scratch. Yeah. Whether or not you know how to do that, for me, I just realized that I had met some amazing people in my career over 6 years, right? People in UR, in nurse case management, and all of these places and panels that we had to create. I had the opportunity to reach out to these individuals and say, hey, I want you to be on my panel. Let's create this MPN. Let's create this UR. Let's create this program that's going to be the best program we can give our clients.
Perfect.
So I did that.
I jumped on it.
Yeah.
And your employer loved you, right? Because you were doing all the legwork and creating all the systems in place.
They loved me. We had really good feedback. So I was here in California by myself for about 2 years. CBCS has internal nursing for telephonic, which I give a shout out to them because they are amazing as well. But yeah, so we got to create that. And as we started to grow, and there was 2 types of growth. One was organic. So they were signing new California clients. And second, our clients were growing. So they were purchasing. So they were actually purchasing other companies. So they were growing. And that gave CBCS the opportunity to hire in some new adjusters and really start.
But did that require you to then have to go to an office then?
No. So
they were all remote?
They were all remote. Yeah. And so we were able to do that. I did that for about 2 years. And I thought, okay, this is amazing. We're running well, but what's next? And
that's a thread with you. What's next?
It is.
What is that about you that causes you to many people may have just put it into neutral or, park and just parked it there for the next 30 years, 40 years, you know what I mean? But something in you is causing you to want to grow.
It is. It's a growth that I love. So I love to learn. I read books, probably 3, 4, 5 a month.
Really?
Yeah.
What's the last book you read?
I'm actually reading right now. It's a negotiation skill book that
by the FBI guy.
Yes,
I read that book.
Okay, so that's actually one that I'm reading right now because I thought, oh, there's some amazing information.
It's really good.
Yeah,
really good.
So I do that. It's a continual growth process with me. I never want to be the smartest person in the room. I feel like there's so.
You are today. I'm sorry. Sorry to tell you. Hey, Rick looks at me.
Yeah, there's so many people.
I'm looking at myself. Sorry. That dream is shattered.
There's everybody has their expertise, right? So for you've built this company on court reporting. That's something that I don't know about, right? So I'm sure there's so much information that I could gain from you. And so,
I'm going to come on your podcast. You mentioned you wanted to do.
okay, everybody heard that, right?
Be on there.
Okay, it's in the audio here. It was this continual growth, as well as once things get moving really well and things are running smoothly, I feel like I've accomplished something, but what's the next problem I can solve?
Yeah, you're like a pioneer. You're like an inventor or something, or like you're a founder of an idea. And then once the system's in place underneath you, I don't know if boredom's the right word, but you might just searching for that next challenge, right?
Yeah, it is. It's a challenge for myself, as well as I feel like, okay, everything's running well. There's somebody out there who might need me,
Right.
or there's a problem, or what can I do? I don't know if you know the title servant leadership.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's how I live my life. That's my mission. It's a servant leadership. How can I be of service to somebody else and help lead them to a point where things are going well for them and there's growth on both my end and their end?
Why do you have that? I mean, you take it, don't take this wrong, but you may take that for granted that, well, it's just you get up every day and you feel that way, you know what I mean? But most people aren't like that. But what makes you feel that way, you think? Have you always been that way? Like from a kid,
I have been.
growing up, you've always wanted to, you had that heart.
I have been.
Certain servant leadership.
Yeah. And sometimes I'm considered a disruptor. And that could be a good thing, but it can also be a bad thing, right? For some people, because it's a status quo. So a lot of times things move smoothly.
People hate change, right?
And I'm kind of a disruptor. I try to always do it with a smile. So I'm like, I know people aren't going to take this well, so let's throw in a smile and hello, yeah, let's do this. But I do like to disrupt because people get stuck in a rut sometimes, or they become comfortable. And in comfort,
Kills.
Comfort. Right, it does. And we don't grow. And there's so much potential in so many people. The other thing is, in comfort, sometimes that creates fear. So people could be comfortable and say, hey, yeah, things are going well.
Don't
Our
rock the
job,
boat.
right. Other times it's a fear where I really want to do something, but I'm not sure how to go about it. And so sometimes my disruption gives somebody else an opportunity to see something and say, hey, she's doing it. Let's kind of...
I've had to do that exact same stuff because when we do the TOA University stuff, this is not a plug for that, but it requires me to come out of my shell, or all of us actually, to get up on stage. And I've always felt like insecure about my ability to communicate. I stuttered as a kid. And I always felt like I could never get my thoughts out, whereas other kids could just easily free flow and boom, they seemed like so articulate and way smarter or something, you know what I mean? So I've always had this insecurity about my ability to speak, especially in public. Like it's like the number one thing, you know what I mean? And so, but as we've done it, as I've gotten better at it, not, certainly not, I'm okay at it. Not great at public speaking.
This is an amazing conversation. So I would say you're great at it.
This podcast, it was another fear thing. It's like, oh, that's why it's been on my to-do list, back burner-ish for a while. It's like, it was on there, but like to actually take steps to actually go do it and then to reach out to people like you and come here and do this. I woke up at 3 a.m. last night. I'm like, not even kidding. What am I going to say? Like, how's it going to go? Am I going to sound dumb? I don't want to sound too dumb. I'll probably sound kind of dumb, but not.
No,
You know what I mean?
Well, and you know what?
But speaking to your point though, is like that fear kept me from doing this podcast a long time ago,
It does. There's been so many things in my life where I think if I would have only.
What's one of those?
If I would have only moved cross state when I was young, when I wanted to, or, things turn out differently, but I've learned from that. So when I was, I would say when I turned about 30 is when I started to retrospect. And I thought, okay, we can't go back, but we can go forward. And if we go forward, let's really do this. So I like to say, live loudly. If you're going to live loudly, right? People are watching. I actually just did a post about this. People are always watching us for different reasons. Sometimes it's a negative reason, but many times it's a positive reason. And people you don't know are watching. Yeah. And so I get emails from people, or I get phone calls from people who said, hey, we seen this post, or we seen you speak here, and you made me go home and think, or I've done this other thing, or I went into my office and I said, you know what? I deserve a raise or whatever it may
amazing,
be.
right? It's amazing. Like pebble in the pond had these ripple effect out in these people's lives, and they're in the farthest most reaches of those ripples of that pond, but they're still reached and randomly.
Right.
And it makes it also worth it.
A year ago, 2 years ago, I would not have thought that. So
what changed then about a year ago?
So if 3 years ago, actually, somebody came to me and said, hey, we want you to come and speak at our next event. What
kind of event?
It was EWC conference. And I was like, no, I can't speak.
You thought that too about you?
In front of 200 people? No, I can't do that. And they're like, yeah, we're going to give you an hour.
What?
So I was like, an hour in front of 200 people.
That's a long time.
Yeah, it really. So
you better be prepared for that, right? Slides, handouts, jugglers,
comedians. Yeah, I initially said no for a couple of weeks. Somebody was like, I will say one of the people I had met who has a beautiful heart, Cindy Mariani, said, Angel, you talk to us all the time.
You got this, girl. Yeah.
Come on. And I said, okay. So I went home and I thought, here's that first step past that fear. Something I had been working on already for the last 10 years is kind of breaking down those walls of fear. So I thought, if I don't do this, then I'm not
taking your own
projecting. I'm not projecting what I've been talking about. So I thought, okay, so I did. I walked up with paper in my hand. I was
shaking the paper.
Yes, my hands were sweaty. My stomach, I felt ill.
Butterflies.
And I'm looking out at 200 plus faces thinking, can I do this? Right?
Long 60 minutes.
Yeah. So I look into the eyes of somebody who had this anticipation.
They wanted you to be good.
Yeah.
Deliver something they could use.
Somebody I had never seen. It's not like I seen a friendly face. It was just somebody who had this anticipation in their eyes, like, okay, what is coming next?
Yeah.
And I closed my eyes. I took a breath. I put my papers down and I thought, here we go. And I started talking to the audience as if I were talking to you or a friend.
Very natural.
Just natural.
Yeah, organic.
Just trying to hit my thoughts. So I can look back on that event and say, I remember the first 10 minutes. Somewhere along the line, I pulled a memory that I kind of threw into as a sample for work comp and team building, because that was really what the discussion was about.
Team building?
Was team building. For me, that's really important, right? Because even as a risk manager or claims, whatever it is, we cannot, even you, right? As a business owner, you can't do everything. We need a team. And a lot of times we forget that. So I thought, let's talk about team building. So we talked about how we built this team. And for me, my discussion was, I had been with Arista a year and we had got back over $2.5 million in the first year, but I couldn't do that alone. So I wanted to tell this story about my first year in risk management.
Amazing year.
Right? I had to learn risk management. I took what I knew, which was claims, to build this program or to streamline the program. But I could not do that without my adjusters, without my attorneys, without my court reporters, without our nurses. So it took that team to build that. So I let that go. I thought, speak on what you know.
Perfect.
And that was the first time. And I walked out thinking, I'm never going to do this again.
You didn't think it went?
No, I didn't. I thought.
Well, I thought you were going to say the first 10 minutes were like shaky, but then you stepped into this mode.
So
boom.
I stepped into this mode and I just started talking to people. Then I see a 5-minute marker.
It's like, what? Time's up already?
And then the nerves came back because it was a realization that, oh my God, I'm not talking to a room full of...
You got to land this plane somehow.
I got to end this. Wow. So I did. And I walked out just as nervous as when I walked in. And I thought, I'm not going to do this again. But I started having people come to me and saying, oh my God, you made this point. Or there was this one nugget of information, which one made me feel good that I didn't waste an hour of 250 people's time. And two, thought, okay, there's something that I know I can share with other people. It was kind of turning the tables. I love to learn what other people have to teach, but I thought, okay, that means I do have something that other people can learn. And over years, I had mentored one-on-one, but I had never done this big discussion. And that seed actually planted that day, I started getting additional opportunities to speak, which I took. And I had been mentoring 1 woman, 2 women, 3 women, and I started to see this transition.
Did you have a formalized kind of mentorship going on, or was it just kind of like take them under your wing,
That's
see where they
exactly
were
what
at,
it
and then like, here, read this book, or here, do this kind of thing?
It was.
Think
People were reaching out, not them individually, but people in the industry were like, hey, I have this friend who just started risk management that came from claims. Do you think you can talk to her? She's a little nervous.
Let her pick your brain, let her
That
bounce
exactly.
ideas off you.
And that's how it started. And I always believe, so not just this industry, but business in general, people in general.
Life in general.
Yes, there's a lot of fear sometimes of sharing what you know.
Totally fear.
Right? Because for us, it could be fear that maybe we're not giving the right information, but other times it's also a commodity.
Mm-hmm.
So,
and if you give that out, you don't have it anymore.
Exactly.
In that mindset.
Exactly.
And now they have it, and now you're less, and they're more.
Right.
Just for you. That's
right.
the wrong way to think.
So what I like to say is my knowledge is not a bank account. So I can give it out and give it out and give it out. It's not an ATM. I'm never going to zero. Like, I still retain it.
Yeah.
It's actually opposite. You share what you know, you're now multiplying it. Right? And why should these people...
It's like a flame. You don't have less flame when you hand it to somebody else. Now there's just more
fire. And so...
That's pretty good. Rick, write that down.
Take notes. Yeah, so that's my thought process of why I share. And I never want somebody to have to face hurdles that I know I could have helped them avoid. And
all this comes from a place of, well, a good heart for you. But back to that servant leadership again.
Yes.
That's kind of your North Star.
Yes, it is. It is.
And wherever you land, that's kind of where you're going to head towards.
I feel like no matter what we do in life, if we are giving with a clear heart and a clear mind, things come to you. So another thing is attraction, law of attraction, right? Mm-hmm. So you give out what you expect to receive. And for me, it's been in my career 10 years. I'm thinking in 10 years, I've gone from mail clerk to senior risk manager who handles an entire...
It's amazing.
Country. So that was a big thing. And I always go back to the fact of sharing, mm-hmm. giving, being kind. And that has opened doors for me.
So right now, all the mail clerks out there listening,
yes,
take her advice. Give of yourself. You're not stuck there. Yeah. If you choose to, you can take the options and you can grow, and you could end up a senior level someday. And you're down line.
Yeah,
it's possible.
There's so many areas that we can take. So say be kind, work hard, and doors open. The last thing you have to remember is don't be afraid to go through those doors. Because what happens is sometimes the door opens, and if you say no, it might not open again.
I think I had this theory. Let me run it by you. Okay. My theory is that so much of the world's ills and stuff that goes wrong is because it comes from a place of fear in the hearts of mankind. Meaning, if people are negative to each other, it's out of fear because they feel like they're going to lose something. Or if people are, angry or they don't share, it's always from a place of fear that they're not going to have enough. You know what I mean?
It's true.
So ultimately, I think you can trace down everything down to like this fear inside someone's life or their heart. You know what I mean? Do you agree with that?
I do. I agree with that. And I think that the more that's why disruptors can be a great thing, because disruptors, if done well, if done, like I say, with hard work and
not from a selfish place.
Yeah, you're doing it in a way of there's a problem, let's try to fix it. Mm-hmm. You become an example, and sometimes you become that first person dancing at that party, right? So it's kind of like you're at this huge party. The world's a huge party, and we all hear the music. Nobody wants to get on that dance floor, right?
Yeah.
So when you get that first person out on the dance floor, something happens. Now, all of a sudden, there's 2 people and there's 5 people.
Right.
And people are living loudly. And so it's the same thing.
One person can turn the switch on a party and turn it into a party if it had been dead before. But it takes that first brave scout to go out there.
Yeah. So if you're not afraid, I look back in my career and every opportunity has been taken. And I think if I wouldn't have taken it,
Would-
so it's kind of a reverse. Earlier, we talked about if I had only, maybe something was different.
If you had moved here or there.
Right. And so for me, once I started to just say, okay, we're going to do this, we're going to take these opportunities. Now, 10 years, I look back and say, wow, because of the opportunities.
Got a track record, and for a long period of time, you'd been saying yes to opportunities.
Yeah.
And so the results of that are where you are today.
Yes. And then a year and a half ago, through this mentoring, I had also seen a few women who came into risk management from claims and was in risk management for a short amount of time and then went back, or they actually went into account management, or they somehow switched their careers and could not or did not know how to navigate or didn't have the support they needed, right? So this mentorship that was one-on-one, let me take you under my wing kind of thing, started to grow into a point of, you need something that I can't give you. Let me connect you with another person. So began a networking kind of spider web of connections, right? But something inside of me said, how do we grow this bigger?
Mm-hmm.
How do we have a group of amazing, successful women share their stories? Which was the beginning of the ProFirm.
Right. I wanted to get all to this.
Yeah.
Good.
So the beginning of the ProFirm.
What's the ProFirm? What's PRO stand for in your?
So the Professional Females in Risk Management.
Gotcha.
And that's the initial idea was
Website for that too?
I do. So it's www.theprofirm.com.
Easy.
And I thought, okay, we're gonna do this. So our first event, I'm trying to fill 50 seats for female risk managers, and it was
like about a year ago.
Yeah, a year ago. Our first event was September 2018.
Hey,
yeah,
1 year anniversary.
Thank you. And I started to recognize that this is not as easy as I thought, because there are risk managers out there, but there were also maybe HR managers that were handling risk, all these different things. And doing some research, I started to recognize, went to the, Department of Labor. I was like, oh, we're outnumbered like 1 to 15. So
wow.
That first event, we started to open up quickly and bring in safety and HR and claims and just professional women in the industry. And I was not sure how it was going to be accepted, or if it was going to be, accepted. What was the result? So again, it was fear.
What's the cliff notes about how you start a nonprofit overnight, basically?
So the ProFirm is not a nonprofit. And the Karma and Blessing
is.
But the reason why, and I'll honestly tell you, I give back through the ProFirm, but because I had a fear of, I have this vision, and if I have a group of people who say you can't do it that way, is it going to blossom the way that my intent was? And so I started to create this, not by myself, but with a group of other people who said, okay, Angel, we see this.
Mm-hmm.
We want to be involved. We've seen what you're talking about. And we're not talking, didn't keep it in the realm of risk or work comp, but my vision was, let's provide educational tools that deal with career and life. So those are the tools that we can't get at a regular conference or seminar.
What are some of those tools you think? Can you name them?
So,
Up your head?
Yeah. So we did bring in an attorney to talk about leadership skills and negotiation. Not negotiating your liens at the courthouse, but how do we negotiate a raise, a new job? How do we negotiate when we bring ideas to the table? We brought in a certified financial advisor, and we talked about retirement, 401k, and budgeting.
So this is real nuts and bolts kind of stuff.
It is.
That women need in their tool belt.
Right. And it was really eye-opening when I did this small poll, and I said, or poll, I should say, I said, how many of you do not, and there's a room of about 80 women, how many of you don't have a 4K? And there were, a good amount, maybe 20%. And for me, 20% is a lot. And there was different reasonings, and there are different reasonings, right? There were, somebody else has one, I can't afford one, whatever. But a lot of it became, we didn't really understand. And the reason why I chose these topics was because these are topics I had recently worked through in my career. I didn't understand a 401k and how important. We knew we have to put money away for retirement, right? But I didn't really understand how important it was once you get there.
Nobody teaches this stuff in school.
They don't.
In public education, there's no financial class.
No.
I'd rather have that than the pottery class that I had, you know what I mean?
Right. And so we take a look at it and we say, okay, if X amount of dollars, let's just say $100 was taking out of my paycheck to put into our retirement fund, that $100 can pay my car payment, can put groceries on the table. But I did not understand the wealth that it would contribute to my retirement when you're no longer working. So that's how that subject came about.
Good tools.
Yeah. So every topic or subject was something that maybe I had worked through, and I thought there's other women out there who might have the same question, right? And then talking to other women, I started to say, hey, what would you be interested in? So that's how our events. We actually have had 8 events in 12 months.
Whoa.
In Northern and Southern California.
The first one was 50 people. Did you get the number 50 in the first one?
Yes, we got about 44.
Yeah, that's
so yeah, so we were close.
Yeah.
And our large
7 more since. Amazing.
Yeah, and our largest one was in LA, and we had 75.
That is amazing impact you're having. I didn't know they were that often. I thought they were like, well, yearly or quarterly or something.
Yeah, it started.
That's a lot of work.
It was going to be just kind of twice a year in Southern Cal. And then the first one kicked off, and they're like, when's the next one? We want to come out. And then someone said, hey, we need it here in Northern Cal.
You've done them up there too?
So yeah, we've had 4 in Northern California and 4 in Southern California. And
are they all day events or how?
No, so
like an evening or lunchtime?
I move them around because I want people to have opportunity. So I have had all day Saturday events. I have had, 4 hours during a work day where we've actually brought somebody in to give a CEU, because it was a topic that we can meld with kind of the mission of the ProFirm.
Yeah.
So we'd give CEUs so that they could come. We've had evening where post-work you come, and they've been in different locations. So really giving the opportunity for women to attend when they can. And as I said, I take those funds and reinvest. So, and for me, it is an investment in these women who maybe don't have the opportunity to do certain things. This year, we have paid for 2 women to take their ARM course and their book.
Amazing.
So these are risk managers who had not taken their ARM, who felt kind of stuck where they were and said, what's the next step? And so I said, okay, how about I pay for your ARM course and your book, and let's give you that reignition on our careers.
If you've done 80 of these and there are about 50 to 80 people or an average of 60 or so, that's 300 women that you've touched, that you've impacted in 1 year. That's a lot. Have you thought about that?
No, I didn't.
Those are 300 lives that potentially, because of a tool or something they picked up, because when I go to these things, if I can come away with one thing that I could use, it's worth it, right? So these your events could have been the fork in the road for somebody's life. They have changed the trajectory from the mailroom, who knows, to their version of the mailroom, to get to the next level for them in their story to build. It's amazing what you're doing.
Yeah,
that is a disruptor.
It is. And that's another reason why it was risky for me, because it was not sure, right? How people are going to react. Are people going to be acceptance? And, there's a lot, in our, let's say, atmosphere right now, there's a lot of things that.
It's the heart of fear. It's leaking out in some people. Unfortunately.
And so I thought, okay, I actually keep a few seats open for college students.
To scholarship them in. They get
because,
free.
I think you have these young women in college who have not come into the business world yet, and they need to see people like them, right? So I came from, a small place, Bloomington, California, right? A little dot on the map.
Go Bloomies. I don't know.
And, but I didn't see a lot of people like me. So a professional Latina in the business world, there wasn't a lot of that, 30 years ago for me. And I thought, okay, let's bring these young women in. And again, we have amazing women from all over. So let's bring them in and let them, one, see what a business seminar might look like.
Right.
See,
Probably their first time, any of them ever been to one of these.
it is.
Anything
It
like
has
it.
been.
Uh-huh.
And then they get to see successful women who have worked very hard to overcome some obstacles to be in their shoes. And then they get to learn tools, right? So before they even get in here, they can start thinking about these ideas about how do we negotiate? How do we value our work? How do we start saving for our retirement? And in that, we've actually, 2 college students have actually gotten jobs in the industry.
Really?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so that's an amazing
That's
thing.
amazing.
Right?
Yeah.
Because I'm like, wow, okay, we've gotten them jobs and they're starting the careers off
Yeah.
in this great industry because work comp, insurance risk.
Those are good case studies for your website or for some testimonial kind of things, right?
Yeah, I kind of want to start bringing them back in and say, hey, come and talk to these other ones. Yeah.
Yeah, get back now. Come on.
It is. So through that, one of our events, I gave 60 business books. So our attendees, our speakers, our sponsors all received a business book called Successful Women Think Differently. And that...
Who wrote that book? Do you know the author off the top of your head? No. We'll get it later. Google it.
Was me like
Google it.
Valerie. Her name is Valerie something. Well,
I said the FBI guy later. Yeah. The other book is all I knew too.
But for me, it was really like, this was a great book. I learned some things from it. And I thought, let's share this on.
And you give those out.
So I give those out. And then one thing that is consistent for every single attendee, speaker, and sponsor is they receive an empowerment charm. So our very first event in Southern Cal and in Northern Cal, I gave charm bracelets.
Oh, it's charm bracelet.
With an empowerment charm connected. And every time you attend, you get a new charm with a different saying that you get to collect and put on your charm bracelet. And
do you have people with multiple ones on now?
I do.
The repeat?
So what's really neat is on our last event, Successful Women Think Differently, Valerie Burton.
Valerie Burton.
Yeah, so
pick it up.
I got the Valerie right. But they get these charms that they get to add to their bracelet. And so on the very last one, I said, how many people are new to the ProFirm event? And we have a lot of hands going up, new people. I said, how many people are returners? And they're shaking the bracelets.
That's like your call sign, or like, I don't know, like your war cry.
And so for me, that was amazing because my idea for giving this empowerment charm was, sometimes we feel alone, sometimes we have fear, sometimes we feel tired, and we are just kind of like, we may be mothers, wives, employees, owning our own businesses, whatever it is. There's a lot of things that go on. And so I thought, how do I share my heart with them?
Yeah, just think of you. I think you don't have any idea how much of an impact you are having now when these ladies are raising their fists in solidarity with your charms on them, rattling them in sort of like this war cry mode. You know what I mean? That you've started this movement.
And I hope that it grows because
there's probably many days where it seems like, oh, nothing's happening, or it's like it's stagnant, or it's going so slow. It's like watching grass grow. You know what I mean? But the grass gets overgrown before you know it, and you got to, you got to harvest it, and you're creating harvest of people you're helping.
So I try, and this is something that I tell all of our attendees, our ladies, mentors, anybody I talk to. So I really believe in journaling, right? Or keeping a calendar. Because our minds move quickly, our bodies move quickly, our days go quickly. Mm-hmm. And there's times we sit there and we're like, oh, we didn't do anything we were supposed to do. Mm. Or at the beginning of the year, we set out goals, right?
Right.
And we're like, oh, we got these 5 goals that we're going to do. And at the end of the year, we're like, we didn't hit 3 of them. But if you're not journaling,
you wouldn't even know.
You wouldn't know. If you are journaling,
how do you measure if your was a success if you don't measure it?
Right. But if you are journaling or keeping calendar or whatever it is, writing it down, you can take a look and say, I had 5 goals at the beginning of the year. I only completed 2 of them, but I did 8 other goals that weren't even on my list.
Ah, good point.
Right?
Yeah.
And so when we feel like we haven't accomplished anything, or we feel like maybe we should be in a different spot, we can look back at something that we've kept track on and say, you know what? I did something this year.
Hey, do you journal every day?
I journal
most days.
Most days.
like in the morning time or throughout the day?
I try to do it in the evening. In the morning, I get up running.
And you go.
I go.
Just go for it.
So in the evening, I do.
Okay.
And I just keep track. So the few things I do is, one, write down something that was significant during the day, even if it meant, whether it's work, life, whatever. So a significant kind of goal or tool or success that I had.
Start a podcast.
Start a podcast. 2, I write down a goal or something that needs to be completed for that week.
Mm.
And 3, I write down a blessing. So something I'm thankful for. I feel like I keep grounded that way because life moves fast. And we are our own worst critic, right?
Very true.
We are. And so if you can flip back and see multiple things like that, then you're like, okay, I have something to be thankful for. Mm-hmm. I've accomplished something, and I have a goal to get me up tomorrow.
So you can just have peace in that.
Yeah.
And go to sleep soundly, and get up the next day and do what's the next most wise thing to do.
That's it.
That's great.
That's one day.
Those are really good, tangible, like nuggets of things to do. It's not just airy-fairy, like, oh, be positive or something. It's important to be positive, of course, but these are actionable items that are very, like, anybody could take that and improve their lives by the journaling, by the setting of the goals, and like kind of like chronicling your goals, dreams, aspirations, and the gratitude piece.
Yeah. And,
we'll forget.
And even if you write one sentence for each, so at the end of the day, you wrote 3 sentences. It doesn't need to take you 30 minutes to journal your right. whole life, dear diary, but it's one sentence for each of those 3 pockets. Can literally take you 2 to 3 minutes. And then at the end of the day, what you start noticing is at the end of the week or a month or 6 months go by and you're like, hey, I journal like most days. So that's an accomplishment. Is
it kind of an unwind time for you? Like maybe everyone's gone to bed or you're ready to go to bed and it's just the end of the day, kind of reflecting, almost like a meditation kind of time.
It is.
Gotcha.
So a hot cup of tea, mint or chamomile, that's my choice.
Curled up with some tea in your journal.
Yeah. And I usually will do that. And again, it keeps me grounded, keeps me focused. And sometimes we don't recognize things or we take for granted, things that we see in our daily lives, right? We're like, yeah, we gotta work. But for me, I'm like, well, that job allows me to take care of my family.
Speaking of jumping out of work mode into back to the family thing, you had mentioned that you'd married your childhood sweetheart for a number of years and then unfortunately got divorced after 5 years, I think you said.
Yeah, so we were divorced for 5 years, yeah.
And then
I remarried him.
So you've been married twice to the same dude.
I have been, yeah.
How did that happen? That's crazy, right? I've heard that before, but it's so rare, right? Like
I think it is.
It must be the soulmate thing. Like couldn't get rid of each other.
It was a growth.
Needed to grow up.
It was a growth. Yeah, it was a growth. And for me, my focus, when I became a mom, my focus was my children. Still to this day. That's
how old are they now?
My son's going to be 25.
Okay.
My daughter is going to be 22. And their birthdays are all 2 weeks apart. That's why I say that. And my youngest will be 14. And they're all coming up.
Yeah. So that's a busy household. And are the 2 older ones out of the house or are they still at home?
My daughter is out of the house. She's working at Amazon. And my son is a warehouse manager, married. And so I talked my daughter-in-law into starting a master's program.
Really?
So they're living here at home while she finishes her master's.
You want to be married to my son? You got to get your MA.
She's amazing. And I just thought, I know what it's like to go to school, to work 50 hours a week, and to raise a family. And it's hard.
Very hard.
And so my husband and I said, let's give them the ability to go to school or work on their career, for a year or 2. And meanwhile, and they're both amazing. They both work really hard. And so they're saving up so that when she gets her degree and they can move in and buy a house and, the things that as a parent, you have the blessing of doing. They're very responsible. So I don't have any complaints.
I have the utmost respect for single moms. When I was born in Albuquerque and my parents got divorced in the 70s, and me and my 2 brothers, my mom decided she was going to leave Albuquerque and come to California with 3 kids and no job, no nothing. I think she said she brought $600 with her and a car. And so we arrived here and we stayed at motels for a while. And this was, like 1975 or something, mid 70s. Eventually, she found some house that we could rent. And the landlord was a little skeptical of how's this single mom going to be able to pay rent, But first thing she did was, back then we had the penny saver. I don't know if that's still a thing. I don't know, the penny saver. So she knew how to sew. She brought us the car and a sewing machine. And so from that sewing machine, she set up a little drape making business and advertised it in the penny saver. And that's how we survived, by having clients come around. I remember having to stay up late, help her fold these drapes. It was miserable. And I had no idea that we were, rock bottom here. But now looking back, whoa, this is crazy to have. And that sounds like your story. You were 5 years as a single mom trying to make ends meet.
My son recently just said, I don't remember not having money, but because I used to make everything fun. So I would say, oh, we didn't have furniture, but we're having a picnic on the floor.
We're camping, we're in the living room.
Whatever. So we kind of did that. But what he does remember is he's like, I remember you being at the table all weekend long making tamales, right? So I would make tamales and sell them because,
money.
Yeah, right? I learned how to do woodworking. I kid you not. I learned how to use power tools and make
birdhouses that you sold. No.
Shelving. Actually, shelving.
Really?
So kitchen shelving and shelving for the kids. And I cut out bear faces or whatever on the ends. I would
put their faces through and make this cute.
Yeah, I would hand paint them, put their names on them, and out of wood that I found, and then I would go pay $10 to put a little table up at the swap meet. And I
had a little craft business going on.
Candles, whatever it was. So my kids...
You're like the ultimate Renaissance woman I've ever heard of. Arts, crafts, sciences, business, investment,
there's always
advice,
a way.
mentoring.
There's
teaching.
Always a way. And so I think that that's what's important for people to hear. Because...
Not everyone looks for the way, though. They look down or they get stuck. They don't look up.
Right. It's true. But when you're the light, sometimes people will look at you or look towards you, and then they can see you.
It's true.
And then they can hear you. And then...
That's another way of describing the disruption, is that it's basically just lighting the path that you've taken. So now these aren't just empty words, but these are your methodology and ways of thinking and behaving that have created this life for you. And it stems from just looking up and observing what's around you, and then stepping over your fears and into the next room.
Right.
It's very rare.
Yeah, that's what it is. And so I love that story that you told about your mom, because I can imagine, this woman, and the fact is we take a look and we say, okay, we have our kids, we're going to take care of our kids, right? We're going to make them okay. And that, I think every single mom out there, that's the thought process is, these are our kids. We're going to take care of them. They're going to be okay. And in the process, we do what we need to do, but we don't, I think, even like you said, you didn't really stop to think about why you were doing what you were doing. And now you did. And as a mother, I'm sure she didn't recognize that she was going to plant a seed in you of hard work or of acknowledgement.
Entrepreneurial spirit.
Exactly. And that's not something that maybe she thought about. And
no, she didn't have time. That's a luxury to think about. Legacy I'm leaving. No, you got to survive. Rent is due now, right?
Right. And so in all of this world, and I do a lot of events at the high school I graduated from as well. So I go back, and my goal is to try to get these to do every quarter. I've done 2 this year. We've had 100 students.
You speak?
I do. I speak. And I put these events together. I did 1 hour for empowerment of the girls. We talk about being kind to each other. We talk about supporting one another. And
that's a big thing in high school. It doesn't come naturally.
We've done that.
There's like a bully culture out there, right?
It
happen.
Yeah, but it happens in business.
Oh, it happens in life. Yeah, that's true. It's not limited to high school.
Yeah, I think in high school it's much more prevalent because, now they have a cell phone, right? We didn't have that back when we grew up.
Right.
But so there's always somebody watching, recording, talking on top of...
Comparing. Instagram's all about comparing.
Right.
So
I've done that, and we really talk about, taking that positivity, even when it's hard, finding that nugget of light, right? And creating. And then I go back as well because I think I didn't see anybody like me. So if I can show them somebody like them, right?
It's amazing.
Somebody who grew up in the same neighborhood,
Mm-hmm.
who walked the same, places
Right.
through the high school, who maybe initially didn't graduate to be this, huge success, but took what I could and still overcame.
Mm-hmm.
So we've done that. A couple of weeks ago, we had 70 high school students on a Saturday, and they didn't have to be there. So that's an amazing thing, right?
It's the karma and blessings now.
Karma and blessing.
What turned into that?
Yeah.
Okay.
So
Speak to that.
Okay. So over about 12 plus years, I always said when I could give back, I would. So
Everyone says that.
yeah. So what I did was I would start taking $20 out of my paycheck every paycheck and buying a new pair of shoes or a backpack or
did it.
Yeah, or whatever it was that a child in that neighborhood might have needed. So it started out $20 per paycheck.
There's this running theme. Pause on that 1 second. There's this running theme with you is that you have big, lofty. You have like big goals and dreams, but you don't let the bigness of it stop you, paralyze you in the day-to-day now. You actually start, and you're fine with starting with little steps, little chunks that build up over time, and then all of a sudden you have a system in place, and then that can be built, and then it can be built up. Most people maybe think that, well, if it's not going to be perfect, and unless it's going to be big right from the get-go, I'm not even going to try. Why bother, right? But you don't. You thought if you could pull out $20 here and there and give a kid a backpack or something tangible, then that's a step forward. That's a key ingredient to your success, I predict. That ability to take the little micro steps, test, evaluate, and then get to the next levels to see what's going to work. And that's the way forward.
It's something that I talk to everybody about, right? When we see things that are too big, it's overwhelming.
Yeah, you can't eat the elephant in one bite.
Right. But if we break it down, whether it's a savings account, education, a career, whatever it is, if we break it down to something, as you said, tangible that we can do right now, it's one step, and it builds and it builds, right? So it becomes your foundation for everything that comes after that.
So true.
So this is how this started, this idea. My mom is a preschool teacher, and she had 17 little ones. It's more of a low-income area as well. And she would call me and say, I have a little one who has holes in his shoes. Or, these are parents who are doing their best. They are working full-time,
Several jobs, probably.
Yeah. I mean, and sometimes they're single parents. I mean, we had single dads. Lots of things where it's just life becomes overwhelming. And I thought, okay, for Christmas, I'm going to buy 17 kids something that they need. So I told my mom, okay, you either tell me, do they need a pair of shoes or do they need a jacket, boy or girl, size, name. That was it.
Mm.
So I took my son and my daughters and I said, let's go shopping. And we did this. I brought them home. We wrapped the gifts. We put the name tags on it. I bought Santa hats for us. And we showed up at the preschool. I read a Christmas story.
Wow.
We had fun with these little ones. And I let my children hand out these gifts. So they call the child's name. They come up. They get this beautiful...
Cool experience.
Yep. Yes.
Amazing.
And then to watch their faces when they rip open. Mind you, these are not toys.
Mm-hmm.
These are shoes. These are jackets. And these little ones are putting the jackets on. Or
trying them out. Sure.
They're taking off their shoes. And I remember a little boy who asked me, he brings them to me. He says, can you put these on? So I put them on and I tie him and he starts tap dancing. Right? So these are emotions that people don't get to see.
Wow.
But for me, this is, so I will tell you, I am an empath. So I tend to, so here I am with these tears and I'm like, oh my God, and for me, it was just something that.
You guys got the greatest gift that Christmas, I carry.
We did.
Right?
So what was happening was my kids were like, okay, this is like so I would take them out of school.
I could do stuff like that.
And I would do things like that. So I would say, okay, I'm going to take you out of school. And I would call the school and say, hey, they're doing a community thing today. But then I started getting little notes that my mom was bringing from parents who were saying, you know what, this made our Christmas because we knew we couldn't afford, right? So each year this program grew. And so I started to not just do that shoes or whatever for her class, but I would start collecting little clothes and sending those with my mom. But at Christmas, we would adopt 2 families, full families, parents, siblings.
Find out their names,
Find out
meet,
everything.
ages.
Yes. And so we would do 17 kids and then 2 families. And included in that was I would give them their gift that they get to open at school. But I would wrap things that I told the parents, put them at home on Christmas morning, you all have something to open. And then a Stater Brothers gift card so that they could afford Christmas dinner.
Great food.
Coworkers started to recognize, they were like, you're always at Kmart or Target or whatever, like on your lunch hour.
Problem later.
Yeah, on your lunch hour, like what is going on? And so I started to share, like, this is what I've been doing for 2 years, 3 years. And
how can I help?
That's what happened. So I had at SRS, it was my entire claims team, the manager, and all of the team were like, we are going to join you. We are going to do a full classroom.
Oh.
So now we're doing 2 classrooms. And then the next year we're doing 3 classrooms. And I took this with me when I went to Corval. And Corval was like, hey, we want to do this
program.
Yeah. So we did.
Did it have a name then? Or was it just kind of like Angels?
I called it Operation Christmas Angels. Right.
Sure.
So I was like, okay, Operation Christmas Angels.
Your own name.
Yeah. And because that's kind of the idea that you are coming in to be a blessing for somebody else, right? And people were like, I'm busy, I'm this, I'm that, but we want to be part of this program. So they would shop when, if they're out at Target getting their daily stuff, they were like, I bought this toy or I bought this whatever. So this program grew. I want to say our biggest year, we gave 220 pairs of shoes.
Whoa. That's a lot of families.
So
a lot of kids.
Yeah. And then it grew into backpacks because they were like, well, we don't have school supplies.
Makes sense.
Right. So I'm like, okay, now we have these 2 events. We have this back to school event and we have this Christmas event. And again, people were coming out and saying, yeah, we can help. We can help with a little bit of this or a little bit of that. It just started to grow. And people were like, you should really have a nonprofit. And I'm like, I don't know about this.
Afraid.
It was, right? Because I'm going to be honest, it's a lot of work.
It's a lot of paperwork, right?
A lot of paperwork.
Compliance with the state.
There's a lot that entails, but people were like, we really want to help, but you got to
do more if you give us a tax break.
So, so we say 13 years in, about 3,500 kids over this time.
Come on.
Yeah.
This is crazy, right? Come on, Rick.
It's just like one
lady does all this. One lady from Bloomington.
And so in March, I was like, okay, we're going to do this now. So we put this nonprofit together. That's
official now.
Yeah. I mean, Rick, Jonathan, they helped me last year gather prom dresses and ties and, suit shirts.
So these kids could go to prom. Yeah.
Yeah. These little things that I think so many of us think this is natural. This is everyday thing.
Right.
But you have some kids on the sidelines that really want to go and they can't. They don't have the right attire. We can open,
$100 for a tux or something like that. It's crazy money, right?
And in our industry, you think about it, we can open our closets and say, that's been hanging there. When we lose 5 pounds, we're going to wear it, right? Or it's been there. We really love it.
5 pounds.
We really love it, but, I just haven't found the right place to wear it. But these things sit there. Or they're clothes that we have worn and they're gently worn, but they're still in good condition. So we take those, we launder them, and we take them to the school. And we've had, it's really great to see these young men go to prom because they put on a suit and a tie.
First time ever.
First time, right? Now they have something to wear to prom. They have something to wear to graduation. And they have something to wear to a job interview. Right? So I'm like, that one outfit.
It's a great tool.
It's
not just one night.
Donated.
It's true. It's not just about, hey, have a great dance, right? It's having that outfit now that they can utilize as a tool, to feel what it feels like to be dressed up in a professional way, So then when they're in a job interview later, it's like, oh, it's second nature at that point. And then they have the actual physical clothes too.
Yeah. And so a lot
I
of
never
this,
thought of that.
I think that we are giving kids, especially in the high school age, and we give to the junior high as well. I do my mission, my giving in Bloomington, because that's where I grew up. And I know that there's a need there. And I know that we can help. Even if it's a small amount, we can help. But for me, it's not just giving, right? Just to give, but it's about empowering them. So you can empower somebody through education and you can empower somebody through tools. But imagine being a teenager who says, I really want to do A, B, or C. But, if I go on that job interview and all I have is this t-shirt or, whatever it may be, or just the thought of being able to have brand new backpack filled with school supplies and brand new shoes that make you feel good. So a lot of people don't know that there are some statistics out there that children who don't have the necessities miss more school, especially as a teenager, because it's a rough time. So if you say, hey, we can't provide you a whole wardrobe, here's some shoes, brand new, right? So they're not hand-me-downs, but brand new shoes is what I like to give the kids. And we do, recycle some of the gently used prom dresses and things like that.
I wonder if for some of them too, is like the very first time they've ever seen themselves in this kind of light. Like it's an epiphany, like, oh, I can be like one of those people that can, maybe they've thought of themselves in a certain negative light or, because of because of financial, causes. But now here's another vision of yourself. What if
Right.
the new you, you know what I mean?
So
Taste of it.
I remember,
The light
being
goes on.
told as a high school student, I remember being told once that I was only going to be the product of my environment.
Small town, go nowhere.
Right. And
That's like,
that was a recurring thought, right? Because every time I had this dream, it was a recurring thought. And the problem is, when I graduated, I was like, yeah, I want to go to school. And I had these good grades. And then I didn't go, I graduated, as I said, 3 months pregnant. And what happened was that reiteration kept coming to me. And I kept saying, I'm only a product of my environment. Right?
That's true.
And I continued to do that until I broke that cycle. And I was like, no, there's more. I can do more. And then I was a mom and I thought, not I can do more for me, but I could do more for them. Well, now we have the ability to go into these high schools and tell these kids, you are not simply a product of your environment.
Those tapes, like each of these little kids, their minds, their hearts are like little tape recorders, you know what I mean? And what they're told is what they'll replay to themselves later on. And, and you can play it yourself too. Like I told myself that I'm always going to be shy. And I'm always going to be, not good speaking. And so those were like the tapes that I listened to, self-believing, you know what I mean? Until I just stop playing those tapes.
Yeah.
And overcome them.
Yeah. And a few weeks ago when we had the event with 70 high school students, it was on a Saturday. They came in on a Saturday from 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. That's a full day.
Yeah.
Came to school and didn't have to be at school.
Right. Yeah.
But I reached out to others, some alumni, and I thought, okay, I don't want to be the only one speaking, right? But we had a doctor of school psychology come in, and we had somebody who worked in the transportation government. My husband, who is a COO of substance abuse facility, came in. We had a financial advisor come in, and different people, different backgrounds, different colors, you name it. Right. And so you have a group of 70 teenagers who can look up, and if they don't see themselves in me, they see themselves in one of the other people, right? Or they take inspiration from somebody else. And so that's really what the mentorship program is about. So Karma and Blessings, when I decided, let's do this nonprofit, it wasn't simply like, give me money, we're going to do this thing. No, it was, I want you to be part of this. I show photos of the kids, not because this is like a grand gesture, but I want you as a donor to know where your money's going, right? I want you to be part. I wish that people could see or feel what I do when I go into this, because when you have kids who light up the room with their smile because they just got some brand new, whatever it is, shoes, jacket, backpack. That's emotional.
Mm-hmm.
When you have teenagers come to you and say, thank you so much for today, that's emotional. I'm thinking, we gave you some tools.
What high school student thanks anybody for anything?
We gave you tools. We fed lunch. And thanks to Netflix, we had some swag and we kind of handed that out. When you have this emotional reaction to this amazing kids, to me, I'm like, how do I share that?
Wow.
Right?
How does somebody become part of the Karma Blessings?
So send me an email. We have a website as well. It's Karma, KARMAN, blessings.org. And you can shoot me an email, get hold of me. We have a donation page. We have a lot of people who say, I can't be there, but we can send a donation. There's a PayPal link there. If my goal is to try to get into some of these conferences and seminars where maybe I can set up a table. I've done it once, but we get these donations of clothing, right, from a lot of our industry who said, hey, we can afford to hand this over. And then again, I launder them and be able to recycle them to these kids. So there's lots of different ways, and I will find one for you. If you want to be a speaker at an event, whatever it may be, we can get you involved.
That sounds like it. Sounds like it's an amazing thing. You've got so much going on. How do you possibly juggle it all without dropping the ball on?
Lots of help,
Yeah.
right? So there's behind the scenes. I have my kids who always want to be involved when it comes to, shopping or getting things together for these events. I'm happy to see that they're as excited as I am to be involved in these things. Lots of great people like you, like a lot of our industry professionals who say, hey, yeah, I can hand over an outfit, or maybe I'm visiting these places, I can collect them. Really being able to reach out and having these great people who say, I see your vision, or I want to be of help. That's how that gets done.
Right. Well, I think you've inspired me just from you telling your story, from high school, from being born in a small town, going through and being pregnant when you graduated 3 months, and then just kind of, but overstepping your own fears every step of the way has led you here to an amazing, impactful, disruptive in a benevolent way life.
Yeah. Somebody told me.
You're the perfect guest for our first ever recorded storyteller.
Oh, I thank you so much. And the one.
We're not done. We're not
done.
No. But I know you have a time frame, so it's a 10:20.
I'm good on time.
You're good on time.
Yeah. The one thing I will say though, again, we talk about risk and fear, right? Doing the ProFirm and Karma and Blessings, I had this fear of, okay, I have this career, and what is the perception of when I'm doing this outside thing? What do people think?
Good question. Yeah.
What are they thinking? How do they perceive this? A friend said, you have...
Who's they anyway? They meaning just
people in general, right?
Faceless, nameless critics.
Right. I mean, the word
booming in the wing.
You take a look, and like I said, people are always watching, and so it was this inner like, this is a risk because it may not go so well. People could say, well, you're utilizing this for this, whatever it was. So it was a risk for me. But a friend looked at me and said, Angel, in 10 years, you've worked really hard and you've built this platform, right? So I think it's time you use it.
You're an expert at risk, actually.
Yeah. and I thought, that's true. So if we have this availability, whether it's a title, whether it's a name that we've built for ourselves on social media, in business, whatever it may be, we're not just our title, or we're not just our career, or we are people who have this ever revolving life. And if we don't use our platform to speak on good things, then the world drowns us out with bad.
Mm-hmm. A lot of noise out there.
There is.
Not a lot of disruptors in a positive way, in a positive light. There's a lot of disruption attempting to go on all around us at all times, especially with social media, You're like a unicorn, basically. That's what I'm trying to say.
I like
You're an angel and a unicorn.
Yeah.
very mythic creature.
Well, and I thank you, Todd, or
Hey, we're not done.
no,
Unless
but
you're done.
no, I want to say thank you because
You're welcome.
this is lots of fun. It's very,
You're amazing.
I really like this. I have
You're a natural too. I can see you having your own podcast, right, Rick? You could easily do this and have your own guests
you,
when you have time. When you have time.
I'm going to take this. I like to take all this information and then one day. So the hard thing for me is like when I decide I'm going to do something,
100%.
it's like let's just go.
Yeah.
Come on, start running.
What is next for you then? Like, because you got so much going on right now. Is the next just basically maintain and keep on growing what you've got this platform already building up, or is there stuff that's like in the wings that maybe you're gonna head towards in 2020? Next year. What's on the plate?
So in 2020, the goal is to really solidify these two businesses, the Karma and Blessings, because we want to make sure we help as many kids as we can, right? So the more donations or the more items that we get, the more children that we can help, and I hate to say help, again, I want to say empower, because inspire, right? We want to give them the tools that they need. But to me, that's very important. So I want to grow that. I want to be able to reach out and touch more people in our community. And two, as well, the ProFirm is also solidify that and start talking more about risks, right? The risks that not just I have taken, but women throughout our industry, throughout business, everywhere, every day, they get up and they take a risk. And they've taken a risk to be maybe the first female partner in a law firm. Or maybe, the first...
Get their own firm.
Yeah.
Get their own files.
Exactly. Or maybe the first entrepreneur in their family. Or whatever it may be. But that's really what I would like to start opening that discussion. As well as we have this gala coming up in February. And again, that was something that I kind of thought about and I was like, well, okay, let's do this. And it's going to be gorgeous. So we rented a yacht. And
nice.
The thought process about this gala is I'm going to be giving awards to women in the industry who not just do their daily job, but reach out to do some community work or mentorship. I will be giving some awards to gentlemen in our industry who over the years have been mentors for women, sponsors for women, or brought them in as partners to really give them open doors and opportunities to shine. And we will be raising some funds for Karma and Blessings. So we'll have a silent auction. It's kind of like a dual system of let's really celebrate the people that are in our world and around us. Yeah. We'll have a DJ, but we'll also have some live music from Hannah Keese, who actually works with Coast to Coast Medical. And she has this upcoming, beautiful, hopefully career in music. Her voice is just outstanding. So we've talked her into coming and doing some live music for us. So
on the boat.
Great
off
night.
The cruise.
Yeah.
Okay. It's a one-night thing?
It's a one-night thing.
It's in February of 2020.
Yes. So I hope that you can join us. We set sail at 5 o'clock. We come back at 9. We have a seated dinner. I mean, this is just going to be a great night. Yeah.
You got to dress up like tuxedo.
Yeah. Bring your best. Bring your A game.
Yeah.
So we did kind of like old Hollywood theme.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. So it's walking the red carpet on the deep blue sea.
Whoa.
Yeah.
This is going to be great.
Yeah.
That's a big thing coming up.
There's
so much planning in that, right? Because we have our TOA university events.
Which I love.
Thank you so much for speaking in our last one, too. You're amazing. We had a lot of great feedback on your segment with Jennifer.
Yeah.
It's so much work, though. For us, I mean, maybe it's easy for you because you can juggle 10 things, but we're just guys. We're trying our best.
It's a lot of work, yeah. But, it's worth it, right? For you especially, right? You have this TOA and you're like, okay, and you get to have these people come in and give this great information. And when people walk away, that's the one thing I do notice is people walk away from your event, they walk away with a smile.
Thank you.
Now, most people are like, ugh.
It's the mimosas make them. Those aren't smiles. Those are like,
no, it's fun. So you guys bring a different element into work comp, which is fun. And we have to, have these CEUs or this education or whatever it may be.
Yeah.
But when it's dry, it makes things very hard.
It makes things hard.
Yeah.
I think it's not that we try and make it fun. I mean, maybe as a byproduct,
natural.
It's kind of like, well, we just try and be our natural selves. And these guys, and I'm pointing over at Rick and his brother John and Jonathan, they bring it as far as the fun. If it was just me putting it on, it would probably be like a librarian conference or something. It'd be dry. It'd be more dry. But these guys bring the fun, and so we just try and be our authentic selves, which happens to be, put on the party hat and the mimosas come out and stuff. But it's going well, but it's so much work. That was my point. It's like, man, I don't know how you possibly do so many events and a full-time job and full-time mom, wife, mother, career.
It's really about taking the energy from others.
What time you wake up every day?
Usually by 5:30.
What? By alarm or just like your body clock?
Well, it started off with alarm, but now by body clock, and I'm usually on the computer working by about 6:30 in the morning.
Mm-hmm. So that first hour is just kind of getting dressed and getting ready?
Yeah.
Okay.
Getting coffee in my system.
Yeah.
Although sometimes we have some early mornings. We have East Coasters or whatever.
Conference calls.
Yeah. As long as it's not video conference work.
No, I just put on a hat. That's what I said.
Yeah.
Put on a hat.
But yeah, no. So I usually, and that's kind of when we talk about getting our day or journaling in, the morning is just not for me. Like I hit the floor, eyes are open.
Running.
I'm like, let's do this. Like I have that power in the morning, like, let's do this. So I just continue to run and, fit things in when you can. So I take my lunch hour and my lunch hour is usually working on either the nonprofit or ProFirm. Yeah. And, then I try to make sure I have dinner ready and, we get that going and I have a 14-year-old in high school. So we do some homework and
you have to shuttle back and forth, taxi kind of stuff?
No. So I'm glad my husband, his office is like 2 blocks from the high school. Perfect. So he drops her off and picks her up. But, I do the homework with her and the dinner and all of that good stuff. But a lot of it is just feeding off that, right? So for me, again, servant leadership, it's like when I see somebody smile, that kind of re-energizes me.
I'm smiling right now.
Yeah.
Are you energized?
Yeah, that's it. It works. It's like, let's do this. So yeah, that's really what it is. And
hey, how big of a supporter has Arista been, your employer right now, for these, your nonprofits?
So Arista has allowed me to actually, that was where I say transparency, right? So I did go to my supervisor and say, hey, I have these other things, but they're community-wise. And I just want to make sure that this is not, that
is.
And
sure there wasn't, right?
No, and that was an amazing thing because there are some companies who are like, no, because you're still
you're out there kind of representing us.
Yeah,
things go wrong.
So the ability for them to say no, you're spreading positivity, so that's good. That's been it. Working remote from home means that I don't have, an hour and a half of transport back and forth throughout the day.
Saves time.
So that saves me some time. And
true.
We had the event for the high school and they provided 300 Otis Spunkmeyer cookies.
I was going to say, they should be donating like all this bread, cookies and stuff. They do.
They donated 300 cookies, which the teenagers.
Can they donate them to a starving podcast?
Yeah, I have some bread ready for you. Yeah, some English muffins ready for you. Telling you, hot off. Yeah, they're amazing.
How do we book a tour of this place anyway? It's an amazing factory we're in right now.
Well, you do know the boss manager.
We have strings we could pull, connections.
Yeah, so
maybe we could book that sometime.
Yeah, we'll talk to our safety manager and maybe do a walkthrough.
Love it. That'd be crazy interesting, Yeah.
You've
been crazy interesting.
Well, thank you.
I can't believe all the stuff that happened in your life, and you're only like, I don't want to gauge it, but very, very young, and so much as
I'm in my mid-40s, yeah.
You are?
Yeah.
I would never say that.
Well, see, I like even more.
No. That's not a blowing smoke. You look like 30.
Well, thank you.
No, I'm kidding.
Well, then that would mean I had my 25-year-old when I was 5.
I'm bad at math. So.
Yeah, no. Yeah, so I feel like that's the other thing, right? So I have this energy.
You're in your stride then. Like you're like just humming along on all four cylinders. And who knows what your 50s and your 60s, you got lots.
They can only get better. They can only get better.
Yeah. Like just fast forward on some of these things that you've been growing and planting, and it's like any one of these could take off, and you would have a whole other chapter of your life that would be dedicated in some other direction, or or one of these full time or something.
No,
no offense, Arista, but her days may be numbered.
That's always been my kind of dream, is to be a business owner that could really be successful and stride on their own. And
There's
big
zero
thing.
reason why that won't happen for you. Zero.
I'm going to take that.
Other than when it's just your timing, yours and
Yeah, I believe in timing.
and
I do believe in timing.
fits.
So, and again, it's taken me, a lot of time to say, okay, I'm going to take that first step. And so now we did. And we're a year into the ProFirm and a few months into, Karma and Blessings. I'm looking at this going, okay, 2020, we're going to grow this, by 2023, where are we going to be? So, again, it's that elephant one bite at a time, right?
Yes.
So I can see it. I see this vision and I'm like, one day I will be able to do this and maybe have a company where I can hire these other great, amazing people to go out and spread this inspiration and spread their inspiration and tell their stories. So
I'm not a fortune teller, but I predict you will be doing all of that. In fact, hey, if let's do this. In 1 year from now, we come back on our podcast and check in with us. So September 12th, 2020, would you come back on as another guest?
yes, I will.
And fill us in on how the year has gone. And I think some amazing things will have happened and you'll be able to inspire us again at that point.
Yeah, well, it's a day. You're giving me that timeline now. I'm like, okay, I got to get moved.
Here. No, I mean, you'll do it anyway. We just want to check in and see so we could peek in on what's going on. You know what I mean? Because you don't need a podcast to light the fire under your butt, clearly, But it's cool for people to be able to hear this, right? We've recorded this whole conversation now that will live now in infamy on the internet for how long the internet is around, probably forever. Hundreds, thousands of people over time can listen to this hour and a half of time and be inspired by your story over and over again in the middle of the night somewhere, like some people. That's the dream of this thing that you have now fed into. And I'm so grateful for today and for you coming on here and spilling your guts for us.
Yeah, thank you.
It wasn't that boring, was it?
No, so much fun. I mean,
it was so fast, right? It's been an hour and a half.
Yeah, it did. It went by really fast.
Boom.
It really did. And, you make it very easy to be able to talk and the conversation, and I think that that's what these podcasts are so fun to do or to listen to as well.
Yeah.
Because
it comes from the guest. It comes from the guest having something to talk about in their story and your inspiring story. You are inspired and inspiring, you know what I mean? So some key themes today were the disruptor, right? That's what disruptor. Also, the servant leadership as your North Star, as we coined it. Those are good thoughts. Those are my takeaways. So I'm recapping now. So disruptor, servant leadership as a North Star. What were some of the other ones? Let's see.
Your work ethic has to be kindness and hard work.
That's right.
That's it.
Getting over your fears, right?
Yeah.
Everyone's got fears that hold them back and that cause them to behave in ways that maybe look to the outside world as negative or something, but I bet you it's always a heart of fear. That's back to my little theory, remember? But you are combating all of that. And it started with one pair of shoes, basically, you know what I mean? For your mom's class. And then it kind of grew and grew. And it just over time, this organic kind of thing happens and you've thrown all these pebbles into the pond, all these ripples are scattered around. You're an amazing, inspiring person.
Thank you.
This is the touchy-feely part.
Yeah, that's heartfelt for me. So thank you.
Where's the handkerchief? I didn't but I do mean that. You are amazing. So thank you for being on our Storyteller podcast.
And I will see you in a year.
Okay, it's a date. All right, bye-bye.
Bye.